Hi, everybody. This is Diana Gray. I'm the Community Marketing Manager for UiPath in the Americas. And today I have my colleagues on, Chris Vidu and Rohit. So we're going to get started on the HyperHack enablement session. So in this session, you'll get a detailed insight into the introduction to HyperHack 2023, what the hackathon is and how to participate. We're going to go over the rules and the different categories that are part of this hackathon. We're going to do demos on AI-powered automation solutions and core business automation solutions. And then I'll talk a little bit about the judging criteria and prizes. We'll talk about submission guidelines, tips on identifying your use case, and tips on how to present and demonstrate your idea or project. And lastly, we'll talk about what's next. So one of the things about this session is it is an interactive session. We're really here to help you answer any questions that you might have about this hackathon. Talk to us, and I'll introduce the team that's here today. So we have quite a crew, both for this session and the next session that we're holding on July 6th. You're welcome to participate in both. Again, I'm Diana Gray. We also have today Joe Edwards, Drew, Veronica, Melody, and two people that aren't on this slide are Ash and Tracy. So let me get started. So the HyperHack talks about you're wanting to be a problem solver within your team or organization. Are you interested in creating an effective, groundbreaking solution with UiPath technology, or do you often think of innovative use cases for any business problems? So again, the HyperHack started on June 15th. There's a link here in the presentation which we'll provide for you. And there's also a link to the forum, which Tracy will go through in a minute. So hackathon is really a marathon. Typically, there's hundreds of hackers that compete in this. And the goal of the hackathon is really to develop a solution. So we're going to go through some of those. So the two solutions that we're featuring on this hackathon are the AI-powered automation solution and the innovation through core business automation solution. We really wanted to put a focus on AI. You'll notice that these categories are a little bit generic, and we did that on purpose so that you can really identify the topic that you want to focus on and present that. And again, we're here to answer any questions you might have about presenting those cases or things you might want to ask us about. So anybody can participate in this hackathon, and we recommend everybody from beginners to people who have done hackathons before. UiPath technology covers a wide range of roles, so please feel free to participate. So again, I mentioned that June 15th, the registration's opened, and this is the enablement session. The other dates I want you to pay attention to are on July 14th. It is the last day to register for the hackathon. And July 21st is the last day for submitting a functional demonstration of your idea or solution. So those are dates to keep in mind. And August 3rd is the final live jury round. We have 3 more enablement sessions, so you'll find these on the HyperHack page. And the rules for the hackathon are really that teams of a maximum of 4 people can join, or it can be an individual up to 4 people. Everyone on the team needs to register separately to the hackathon, but you can submit more than one solution as a participant or a team. So I know we had that question on earlier enablement session this morning, but feel free to participate as much as you'd like. So now I'm going to turn it over to Drew.
Yeah, thanks, Diana. If you want, I can share my screen because then I'll show some of the
Okay.
things as well. Awesome. So some demos in terms of using AI and machine learning within your automations. We have actually two demos that I'll kind of go through. One I'll actually show, the other we'll kind of just talk about. But the first one is going to be a two-way match invoice processing demo. And so, this you may have heard of two-way matching or three-way matching for invoices. But this time is actually going to use machine learning in a couple different areas. So it uses automation to really orchestrate the process end to end. So to use the automations to actually grab the invoice that needs to be processed, as well as supply data from other systems and provide other context to the machine learning models to finally produce an output. And so the first machine learning AI capability that it uses is going to be the UiPath document understanding. That's going to be used to actually extract data from an invoice. Once we have that data, we can then make a call to a generative AI model to actually do some data cleansing for us. So it does some data cleansing of the table that was extracted, also does some semantic matching of columns so that we can get the columns in the right format that match our SAP system. Then from document understanding, we're actually getting the PO number that's related to the invoice. We'll have at the same time as the data cleansing is going on, the robot's going to go into SAP, look up that purchase order, extract the table data or item data, combine that table and item data with the data coming from the invoice that was cleansed from generative AI, combine it into a prompt, and then make one final request to generative AI to actually do a comparison of the data and let us know if the invoice and purchase order match or if there are any mismatches. Of course, if it matches, it'll go straight through processing. But you'll see in the demo, it's going to on purpose have an issue so we can see some of the Action Center capabilities and what that human in the loop experience looks like. So with that, I'll end the slideshow. And so I have my project here that basically maps or mimics the architecture diagram that you saw before. A couple of things I'll first point out on this left-hand side is going to be that invoice that we want to process. Right now I have it locally saved, but of course you could have the robots go out to an email, go out to a shared file, really any location where that document is and grab that document for processing. So you can see here we have the line items, we have some totals and some other information. And so we'll use this, extract it and use it downstream. And now you'll also see here on this left-hand side, as part of using generative AI, I do have some prompts, right? So when you're making requests to generative AI, you need to add some prompts, add some context, add some data. And so I have, we make two separate requests as part of the actual process itself. The first process request, I have a prompt here where I basically put in the table that I've extracted with document understanding. I have the columns that I want to get the table set up into as, and I basically request the model to do all the logic for semantically matching the columns for me. I even provide the requested output as well of how I want generative AI to respond back to me. Now, once I have that and I have the document understanding piece, I can then combine it into a second prompt. And so this is where I make that second or additional generative AI call and bring generative AI in to actually do the table comparison. So you can see here, I have placeholders for the first table and the second table. I go ahead and give it some instructions of what I need to do. And then you'll see that the model itself will go do its comparisons and then provide me the response in the format that I'm requesting. So with that, we'll go ahead and hit run and we'll watch this in action. I'll talk through it a little bit as we go through. I do have the execution trail on so we can visualize what it's executing. And then at the end, we'll go into Action Center to see that final result if there's any issues that it found. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask as we're kind of going through this. But we can see it kicks off. So the first thing, it's going to go in and read prompts. So those prompts that we looked at, as well as go through the invoice document understanding. So it does the extraction. Then we go to generative AI. And at the same time, while we're doing the semantic matching of the columns and updating, we're going into SAP to grab that purchase order and purchase order data. So we're going in and doing that extraction. Then we combine all that into the prompt too. Just for demo purposes, I have a message box here so we can see that generative AI was able to tell us that, hey, there is a mismatch here. The price of table 1 is mismatching from table 2. And so if we go into the Action Center task that's created, we can see that the generative AI description is listed here. So we have kind of an easy way to go through this and do some of the checks. And we also have some of those extraction values here. So it's really a seamless way to have that human in the loop while using generative AI to handle some of the logic and some of the matching within your invoice process. So really, one of the keys here, and as you think about how you can use generative AI or just even AI and machine learning within your automations is going to be how can we, absolve away some of that development complexity by putting in generative AI and using kind of natural language and prompting to handle some of this logic. The other thing too is kind of breaking up the logic into smaller chunks. That way you'll get more reliable responses from generative AI and from the machine learning requests that you make. Any questions on that from anyone? Awesome. Now I'll show one other use case, just kind of talk through this one more. But here's another example of using generative AI or an AI-powered automation and using integration service to do some server-side triggers. So in this case, we have something called Meeting AI. And basically how it works is as soon as you're done with a meeting and you have a Zoom recording of that meeting, that Zoom recording gets uploaded to Zoom's cloud. We actually have an integration service trigger set up to look for that recording to be added. As soon as it's added, that'll then kick off a downstream automation. The automation, again, it's using integration service to authenticate with your generative AI models. In this case, it's the Azure OpenAI model. The first thing it does is we pass the transcript data as well as provide some prompt around, hey, we're looking for the action items and a summary of this meeting. So generative AI takes care of both. It summarizes the meeting and pulls out those action items. We pass the summarization down for the final email at the end that we'll kind of send out. The action items then go to another prompt where we add in those action items along with the list of potential downstream automations to run. And we ask generative AI to decide based on the action items that you came up with, what automations should we run to get suggested information, right? Now that could be security documentation, could be get meeting times, get the link for the recording. We have different automations that have been set up and are ready to execute based on those action items. And so generative AI then makes the decision of which automation should run based on those actions. And once we get the outputs of those additional automations, we can then synthesize everything into an email and send the email out to either the participants, or if we wanted to have a human in the loop, we could send it to the meeting organizer to review, make some edits to before they finally send out. So hopefully these were two kind of examples to help you think about different ways you can start to use AI and machine learning within your automation, inclusive of some of the more generative AI technology that is coming out, and then that is getting more and more excitement around these days. And if anybody has any questions on this use case, the other use case, or just kind of thinking through some ideas, happy to kind of take them now or throughout the rest of the presentation. If you have any questions, happy to take them. Awesome. And with that, I'll pass it to Veronica.
Thanks, Drew. And then actually, Diana, can you resume the share with this deck?
Sure.
On the slide 15, it should be.
Okay.
And then, yeah, two or three forward. Can you go forward a few? I'm still seeing just the two-way invoice match.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to move. Let me try it again.
I can pull it up on mine for now.
Here we go.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oops.
Yep, perfect. That's a slide. All right. So Drew just showed a couple of our, Gen AI options for your hack week, but this is kind of more of a core automation. And this one's cool because it's a very UI, UX type of automation if you're into that, which I am. So this is basically an app that if you scan this QR code, you can actually see this app work in action. So this is an automation that we built specifically for when we do, when we go to conferences or do roadshows for customers to very easily get information from us. So this QR code, when you scan it, it takes you to UiPath apps, that first little screenshot on the bottom left. So the whole interface that you'll see when you scan that QR code and go there with your phone is all built on apps. And basically you have the option to check some boxes on which materials you want sent to you, put in your information like your email. And then when you click the submit button, that triggers an automation to run, which then takes the boxes you checked, takes your email address, and pulls all that from data service, which is where it's being stored off of apps, and then composes that email, it sends you an email. And what's cool about this one actually is the automation was built in Studio Web. So for anyone that maybe is thinking about trying out Studio Web instead of Studio, this is kind of a cool example of using apps for a more visual type of interface for your automation, and then Studio Web. Has anyone scanned this and tried it out? I can actually see if it's been triggered. So yeah, I can show a little bit of the app's interface if people are interested, but I think in general this is just kind of an idea of, you can either do something that's more of here's what it'll automate, here's the end result. This is cool because you can actually give that person an interface to actually execute that automation. Okay, cool. I see Priya at least tested it out.
Yeah, hi Veronica, this is Priya here.
Cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool UI, like to send out all this material. I think like for folks that are looking at this as an idea, it gives like more such opportunities, to build around it.
Yeah, definitely. And I just realized like everyone might not have their phone readily accessible. So Diana, I'll steal the screen share really quickly and just show
Okay.
what it looks like in the browser, and then I'll give it back to you after that.
Okay.
Here, yeah. So this is just in the browser what it looks like. I'll zoom in so that it's more like what you might see on your phone. So this is all built with UiPath apps, which is pretty cool. So I can go in here, I can check which materials I want sent to me. We even have this little eyeball that shows you a preview of the URL. And then I put in my name, first name, last name, email, and then you can actually test it out with that QR code. When you do click submit, it will send you an email with those materials. Cool. Unless other people have questions, I think we can keep going. Yeah, it's a great example also of UiPath using UiPath, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Okay, so now I'll spend a little bit of time on the judging criteria. So we have 5 different categories. The impact for your project is at 25%. Concept will be judging at 20%. Technology at 25%. Completion at 20%, and presentation is 10%. We have a evaluator group that will be evaluating proposals, and then a jury who will be looking at proposals during the live event. The other thing we think people should be excited about are our prizes for both of these categories. We have $4,500 as the award for the first place prize. The second prize is $3,000, and the third prize is $1,500. And all HyperHack certificate or finalists will receive a certificate as well. So again, the submission deadline is July 14th. And this is just a little bit of information you'll receive on the HyperHack registration form about, using a template to put together your project, creating a solution video that's no longer than 5 minutes, and just any information any questions you have about this information, please let us know. And then Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Diana. I'm Joe Edwards. I'm on the product marketing team if I haven't met you yet. And Diana asked if I could share a little bit about my history with hackathons. So I used to work at the U.S. Treasury Department in DC prior to coming to UiPath, where again, I'm on the product marketing team now. But prior to entering the world of marketing, I was a product and program manager at Treasury. And we basically were a glorified hackathon team. So we looked at ways that the government, which, stereotypically is pretty slow to integrate with new technologies. How could we incorporate things like that were modern and used in the private sector, ultimately including UiPath, which is how I first found out about the company. But we also explored our first mobile check apps for being able to scan checks that you receive rather than having to mail them in. We did partnerships with Apple, PayPal, lots of random e-commerce providers. But the cool thing was that a lot of the projects that we started actually wound up being used in production. So today, I think I haven't checked in with the team recently, but like the check scanning app that we developed for mobile, for instance, now has processed north of, I think, $100 million worth of transactions. So all that to say, as you're thinking about your hackathon projects, these aren't just projects that can be in a vacuum. Like you can find production use cases often for them, which takes us to the next slide, which includes a few just tips and tricks from our last few years with hackathon. So short and sweet, 4 main points. And of course, since we're UiPath, I had to do this as a path. But the biggest thing I would say is it helps if you can solve a personal pain point. So it can be personal in terms of, something that's frustrating to you on the weekends, something like to help you do your taxes more efficiently. It could be, how could you leverage AI in your home effectively using automations? It could be something frustrating at work, that I wish that this process ran in a more streamlined manner. At Treasury, that was actually what started our check process. And the great thing about that too is that a lot of times employees feel like you have to be, technical in order to have a hackathon idea. And the great thing is that that's not the case. So like our check app, for instance, at Treasury actually came from a person who was nearing retirement and, had worked in the government faithfully for 30 years. And again, didn't consider themselves technical. So I would encourage you to, explore those edges where you have pain points, whether in your personal life, your work life, maybe even working with your university, if they have use cases for where automations could help, or a local nonprofit. I know Tracy, who's on the line, has done some really cool work with nonprofits too. So that's point 1. Try to find a personal pain point to solve. Point 2 is to try to find unexpected ways to leverage AI. So Drew shared some really cool use cases earlier in the call. And I think the thing to highlight there is that, every company, virtually every app in the world is going to have like some kind of an AI copilot, right? So you can take that as table stakes that in Word, there'll be automated action suggested to you from copilots in PowerPoint, in Gmail. I think there's lots of opportunity if you think about the places where those apps are not yet connected and how automation can be the glue that cements processes between the various copilots in the world. Third, I'd definitely recommend, imagining that your solution goes to production, super successful, And try imagining, if it were to be used by 1,000 non-technical people, what kind of design decisions would you change? How would you present the solution to folks so that it's easy to access, that they can navigate it, hopefully without needing like a docs page? Like hopefully the application itself is pretty self-explanatory. And so if you're thinking about scale from the start, that can often help to avoid issues down the road as you're developing and it starts scaling. And lastly, as a person who's reviewed hackathon submissions before, and I struggle with this myself too, but I would say oftentimes try to focus more on the edit for your presentation content than the initial version. So, we always want to put out as much information as possible, tell the review committee about all the great work that went into the hackathon, but you have to imagine your entry is included along hundreds of others, right? So if you only had a few minutes with a reviewer, what would you tell them? How would you make the business case? How would you tie your solution to that pain point that we mentioned in point one? So those are some really quick tips and tricks. Happy to talk with you more if you want to reach out to me. Feel free to email or LinkedIn or wherever. And I'm looking forward to checking out the solutions that you all develop. Thanks for your time.
And Joe, what would you say to somebody who's new to a hackathon or nervous about entering or hasn't done one before?
I would say like every hackathon is ultimately going to need some kind of technical talent, right, to actually bring the solution to bear. But every hackathon also needs like the genesis of a great idea. So again, I think about my colleague who came up with the check example at Treasury. She had experienced the fastness of not having to go into a bank branch anymore to deposit checks. She was like, I haven't gone into a physical bank branch in 10 years. Why are we requiring our public stakeholders at Treasury to have to, travel? And in some cases with Treasury, like people literally would have to get like helicopters for like Grand Canyon sites if for cash and checks that were deposited, in remote locations. So that genesis of an idea again came from somebody who was not who didn't consider themselves technical. So I think anybody can come up with an idea, and also you're in good company with the UiPath community. So don't hesitate to maybe share any ideas that you have if you're not a technical person on the forum. And often I see that folks are really ready to volunteer. So I would definitely encourage sharing your idea on the forum.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
So Melody and Ash, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Diana. Hi, everyone. My name is Melody. I'm from the UiPath Professional Service team, and I'm a solution architect. So we have been deploying a lot of enterprise use case to clients' production on both core and AIDU use case. And me and Ash are both specialized in AI and DU use case, but we were previously work on a lot of core use cases. So to give you some tip on how to select an ideal core or AIDU use case, we have presented a list in front of you. So for anything that is automation worthy, it would be great if you come up with something that is kind of high volume and high time saving. But for hackathon, you can just come up with something that you or other that are doing every day and how it can be improved by automation, right? So majorly anything that it requires a lot of clicking, a lot of key entering, then you might be thinking, how can I transform that into an automation to help my day-to-day, right? And then the second one is a repetitive manual process is the same thing. Basically, find something that you are excited about and have positive impact on your life or the others. I personally have a personal automation that I made for myself is paying my electric bill because my provider was EverSource and they only take debit auto payment. But at the same time, I want some points for my credit card. So you can pay credit card, but it's just you have to do it every month on a time basis, right? So I have automated that for my own self. So if you look back into those kind of things, something that you might benefit from or your company can benefit from. Those are kind of things that can, like, be automated if you're excited about those kind of things. So it's very important that when you choose a use case, you are thrilled to kind of do it, not like, oh, I need to do this just because of work kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, this is to help alleviate your work or your personal life a bit more so you can enjoy yourself. And those are both for core and AI use case. The additional consideration we would recommend for any AIDU use case is any document is eased for digitization. What that means is that, even as a human, if we look at like a very low quality document that's very fuzzy, what you run into is that OCR engine is not able to translate that to a digital, format, right? So you want to make sure that you have a document that's like, semi-clear, not like super fuzzy, and also that you be able to provide like number of sample to train the model on. And then the second one is ease of classification. So what that means is that if we have something coming in an email inbox and we need to intake that, right? And classify each document and attachment that comes in, make sure that like the document itself is easily be able to identify into a certain document category. Because as a human, if you can't identify what kind of document that is away from the other, then you can't really train a model to do that. And then the third one, as I mentioned on the first one, is that you want to be able to have access amount of like, sample documents to train the models on. So when you identify your use case, at least make sure that you have 200 plus sample kind of thing, so you can have that to train on the model. That is more for geared towards out of the box model and also the custom DU model we have. And if you have been into our AI center, leveraging any of the out-of-the-box pre-trained machine learning model is gonna help you speed up your hackathon project, because those models are the models that being used to train on millions of sample already. So the prediction on like a non-trainable, let's say invoice or purchase order or W-9 or something like that, it's very high on performance already since they're already pre-trained. And then the next is to understand the document that you're trying to train. Do they fall into structured, semi-structured, or unstructured document? For hackathon, we'll say to try to gear away from unstructured document, because those you need to do a hybrid of custom DU plus some language model. So that might be too complex with the limited time. So we'll recommend you to look into more of a structural, which can use form extractor, or a semi-structure, which it can use any of the out-of-the-box pre-trained or a custom DU model. And then the next is variation of documents, right? Try to limit for the hackathon to like 5 or like 10 variation for your documents. For example, like if you're doing invoice and you have, 100, some client have 10,000 vendor, which is crazy to me. So every vendor has a different variation, right? So for hackathon, might be good to select a set of 5 or 10 vendor to train on, and we recommend that you have 10 sample per variation to train on the model, so the model can gear towards more of your variation, the documents. And then the next thing to also think of is number of extraction field you're gonna be required. Sometimes people want to extract everything from the document, even though we're not processing everything down the post-processing stage, right? So to limit that extraction fields and stuff like that can expedite your project timeline and stuff like that. And then document splitting is embedded into classification. Currently, IKC is the only one and has the capability to split documents. So trying to find sample that is only one document per file type for the hackathon, and that will help you go through the classification easier than needing to make sure that you done the splitting correctly. And then next is number of languages on the document that comes from. So here I would suggest just focus on English for now. And then we also, all the model, like invoice model, PO model, they support Latin-based languages. So like anything like Spanish and like, Greek and stuff like that is also supported. And then what is very tricky is handwritten contents for extraction, because first it needs to go through OCR. So when you are thinking about an example where you want to extract handwritten content, you want to make sure that it's not cursive, right? Even I can read cursive myself, so it's probably not good to like try to build a solution around handwritten content that requires reading cursive. Detecting cursive like signature and stuff like that are doable using our ML model and our form extractor. So that's fine, but recognizing letter to letter, that's a different use case kind of thing. And then post-processing option for your process robustness. That means like, if you extract something from invoice and you have a database or something like that to verify the data you extracted, like, hey, I extracted this invoice number and it actually is a purchase order invoice, then you can use the purchase order number to search in any ERP system to, match, hey, is the invoice amount like, match, or is the billing address and all that match, so that there is less of a human in the loop to Action Center kind of help onto the robot logic. So all those points listed here are a good thing to think about in the back of your mind when you're trying to choose like a AI or DU or even just core RPA use cases. Anybody have any question regarding to this slide? Awesome. So you guys are great on the good hands and know what to choose for your hackathon projects. So I'll hand it over next to Ash. You can go to the next slide, Diana.
Yes, thanks, Melody. All right, hello everyone. I'm Ashrita, also known as Ash, and I'm RPA developer from Professional Services team. And I've been working on the AIDU project since I joined UiPath in 2020. Today I'm going to talk about how to best present your HyperHack solution. So I'd say it's always good to have one of the initial slides in your presentation, have your introduction that's including your name, role, your company name, and also maybe pictures of the team members that worked on this project. Then do include the following in your presentation, starting with the problem statement. Describe what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Try and keep it precise. Then the proposed solution, what is the solution and what's the approach you took to solve this identified problem. Have a slide to mention all the tools and technologies used. Also include all the UiPath products used. Then end users. Discuss who the end users are for your solution, what department, industry, or market opportunities your solution is pointing to. Explain how it addresses a pressing need faced by this specific group of people. Highlight the key features of your solution. Results and impact. If there is any data or metrics derived from your solution, present it. And also don't forget to show how your solution can be scalable. You can also show the solution architect design diagram. However, this is not mandatory. If not solution architecture diagram, you can instead show some relevant images or diagrams that enhance the understanding of your solution. Coming to the demo, have a presentable demo that shows all the core features and functionalities. Keep in mind to leave room for Q&A. And coming to the time frame, try to have the presentation with not more than 10 slides, since you have to accommodate time for demo and Q&A, everything included in approximately under 10 minutes. Keep the PowerPoint slides as precise as possible. Last but not least, try to effectively communicate the value of your solution and just show how good it is. Any questions on this slide? Great. That's it from me. Take it away, Diana.
Thanks for your helpful advice. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tracy for our last slide here.
Guys, we wanted to make sure that you know where you can go to for support. So I've got a couple of ladies here with me that have joined the call, Priya and Sharon from the MVP team. Wanted to make sure everybody was aware of where to go to in the forum to find us, and that we're here to help throughout all of these weeks. So I'm going to put the forum on screen so you guys know where to go. Are you able to see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you guys will be able to get the presentation afterward, and I'll put this in the chat as well. But we've got a special area in the forum dedicated to answering any HyperHack questions. We've also got the community Slack channel available where you can send us questions there. And those of us on the MVP team are monitoring. Priya and Sharon both have special skill sets and AI Center. Priya also does document understanding and Sharon apps. So if you have any specific questions to those products as well, we're here to help. We have others supporting us as well. So even outside of those applications, we're available to answer any questions that you have. All of the information that you want related to the HyperHack is out here in the community channel. And there are a number of questions that have already been answered. So this should be your go-to resource for anything that you have regarding anything technical, signing up for the HyperHack, or anything else that we can provide support on. In addition to that, we've got our communication information available that we're going to paste into the chat. So you're welcome to reach out directly if you prefer not to post out in the forum. And there's the link for the website I was just on. In addition to that, out in the forum, for those of you that haven't been here before, and I'll paste this in the chat as well. This is your resource for putting the use cases that you guys create. So I know I've always found it fascinating to see the ideas that people have come up with. Totally agree on the idea of creating something for yourself. I know, like, one of my very most valuable automations were automating having my kids' grades sent to me. I still save a ton of time having that come to me. And out here on the use case repository, once you've got your idea built, you can showcase it for all of us to see and for us to learn from and think of new ideas for ourselves. So there's a lot of cool stuff out here and pages worth of things that you can filter and categorize if you need some inspiration on what to do. All right. Diana, anything else you'd like me to cover?
No, I think we're good. So I think it's time for Q&A. Did you guys see anything in the chat that needs to be?
We are definitely recording the meeting, and that will be available to everybody. An automated email will come out summarizing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then I put out, that was the primary question out there. Oh, and sorry, I switched Priya and Sharon on document understanding and apps. So Sharon's specialties are document understanding and AI Center, and then Priya's our AI Center, Studio, and apps. And then we're all here to help across the whole UiPath platform.
Great. So I guess we can open up to anybody who might have any additional questions. And if not, I just want to thank the team today for coming together and providing this information. Again, there's a huge America team prepared to help you guys with anything you might need. And so we look forward to seeing you register for the HyperHack and providing us with some great solutions to look at. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.